right, welcome everyone to this presentation of the 2024 10-year telecommunications plan. My name is Alex Kelly. I'm part of the team that supported the Public Service Department in creating this plan. Right now, I'm going to present some highlights from this plan, but I highly encourage everyone to look at the full document, which is posted on the Public Service Department's website. While I'll be able to hit some highlights here, obviously, the plan in its full detail is where the bulk of the information is. After I do a quick presentation, we will take further public comments. Do you have anything you want to share? Without any further ado, all right, I'm going to give you a little bit of context on the plan this year, 2024 plan. I'll talk you through some of the research and analysis we did. I'll review some of the changes we've made to the plan since the previous version, because we've received substantial public feedback. It was very, very useful, very productive. And then I'll go through some of the findings and recommendations. And so the context of the 2024 plan is guided by statute. I think we're all aware of that. Statute 202C, 30 VSA 202D as well. Sets the process. Importantly, at this moment in time, this 2024 plan it was created to build on the momentum created by substantial federal resources that came to the state for broadband deployment, including ARPA funds, CPF funds, and the ongoing Broadband Equity Access and Deployment funds. The plan addresses all the statutory requirements, but it also places a special focus on elements that are not addressed in the simultaneous planning that is being done as part of the BEAD program. So the BEAD program is mandated by the federal government. This plan can't supersede that work, and so we've, for the sake of smart use of resources, we've focused this plan on elements that plan does not cover. So this plan has a lot of research that went into it. We did a wide survey of landline and cell phones to come up with a statistically significant sampling of residents. We did an online survey of many different sectors: businesses, healthcare, public safety. We did interviews with over 55 public and private stakeholders. We did a statewide mobile engineering and coverage analysis. And we did an input-output workforce gap analysis based on the construction spending we expect to happen in the state to understand whether the state's current broadband construction workforce will meet the needs of all the work that has to be done. All right, so we also have been in the middle of, and this is part of, robust public participation process. We advertised the public participation opportunities on WCIX. We held 3 public hearings with remote options in March with sign language translation, which again we have tonight. We did a lot of outreach via email to interviewees and other stakeholders, encouraging them to review the plan. There was a dedicated email address set up to receive comments on the plan through the Public Service Department's website. We've done collaborative publicity and distribution with the AMOs in the state, and we received over 50 pages of feedback during the public comment period, all of which will be included in the final draft of the plan, with comments based on the Public Service Department's changes and responses to those comments. Now, I'm not going to necessarily go through these line by line, but I can say that there isn't a single section in the plan that I think didn't change to some degree between the preliminary draft and the final draft based on public comments. Very grateful to everyone who participated. It made the work product a lot better, and so we're just, again, thankful for everyone who submitted comments and who will submit comments in the course of these hearings. So a selection of findings in the plan. First, fiber coverage is expanding rapidly in the state. I think many of us know this, but the interviews and analysis we did surface some small challenges with the fiber deployment process that we think the state can tackle. a big challenge that we documented is the fact that the broadband construction workforce will really need to grow to handle all the work over the next 5 years. There's also a kind of ongoing concern across different stakeholders in the state about the fiber deployment that is going to be followed, and in some cases accompanied by infrastructure owners burying their network in the next 10 to 15 years as part of utility hardening. And we also noted that the Agency of Transportation, who was issuing right-of-way application fee waivers, actually stopped doing that recently, which is adding costs to the deployment of broadband in the unserved areas before that exercise is complete. So on the mobile wireless front, our analysis showed that, first of all, it's not unsurprising that stakeholders really think this is critical and critical to improving the state. Businesses, a substantial amount of businesses said that the wireless coverage is not adequate for their business needs. And the majority of residents agreed that the state should use public funds to improve mobile wireless coverage. In looking at historical data compared with the most recent data available from 2022, the download speeds have increased quite substantially across the state, the average speeds that people can use, get on their phones. However, coverage expansion has not happened nearly to the same degree. In fact, there's very little evidence of increased coverage around the state. However, if you look in the plan, you will see that there's a substantial amount of engineering we did that showed that strategically placed small wireless facilities, which are 50 feet tall or less, can make significant progress towards closing mobile wireless service gaps. We analyze this because those types of facilities are much easier to get stood up. They're easier for a number of reasons. And so this underpins our recommendation to pursue a mobile wireless deployment program that focuses on these types of wireless facilities, which are easier to nestle into the environment. They are less prominent, less notable, and yet can still create a meaningful increase in coverage. Affordability was a significant concern amongst people we spoke to for the plan. The Affordable Connectivity Program, which is a federal program that provided $30 a month to qualified low-income Vermonters, expired in April. Congress didn't refund it, which is causing about 24,000 Vermonters to lose this subsidy. So, another big theme through the plan and the work we did was that stakeholders strongly noted that both fixed and mobile connectivity are equally important. Right, fixed being the service you can get at your home, and mobile being the service you can get via cell phone or device on the go. That being said, the Affordable Connectivity Program only provided the subsidy for one service, even though both of them are critical. And healthcare workers in particular noted that unhoused Vermonters and housing insecure Vermonters really needed that mobile device and mobile connectivity to access care and that was their lifeline to services and coverage. And so affordability for that population with a mobile device and a mobile service plan was particularly important. In the public safety department, in parallel to the creation of this plan, a public safety communications task force was established to evaluate a number of public safety communications questions, including whether or not the state should work to consolidate different public safety answering points. So that was we hope that the work we did in this plan informs that process and can be supportive of their decision making. We also found that there were 50 FirstNet sites deployed in the state. That's up from 30 something that was from the 2021 plan. But these are not new towers per se, some new towers, but a lot of tower upgrades where AT&T upgraded their equipment to accommodate FirstNet. And we also had very clear feedback from stakeholders that statewide communication interoperability plan. Although they were making some progress on some pieces, many of the goals in that plan could only be addressed with dedicated state funding. Lastly, we looked at the various Vermont statutes that govern the telecommunications planning and goals in the state, and noted a few places where we think lawmakers should revisit the statutes. Number one, the broadband speed definitions and deployment parameters are not necessarily fully cohesive across statutes, and especially since a couple weeks ago when the FCC raised the definition of broadband to 100/20, we think it just merits kind of a full scan and making sure that our statute is fully aligned to the speeds that we want to encourage in the state. Another thing we note is that the statutorily mandated end date for the Vermont Community Broadband Board, which is July of 2029, is before all of the BEAD program activities are likely to happen. And again, the VCBB is overseeing the BEAD deployment in the state. We're just noting that that should be looked at. And then in other areas, across a number of statutory goals, some of which were drafted almost 40 years ago, we just noted some overlapping language, some non-specific language, and noted the ways in which that can cause, kind of lack of focus or alignment across all the stakeholders that work on telecommunications in the state. Section of our recommendations. We made a few recommendations to make wireline deployment more efficient. That's fiber deployment. We were supportive of reinstating the Agency of Transportation fee waivers that I mentioned earlier in the findings. As I mentioned, we included a robust study of the workforce gaps that are anticipated in the state, and we urge stakeholders who are involved in workforce trainings to scale their programs up based on that analysis to make sure the workforce is skilled and qualified. We're also recommending that the VCBB, as well as other stakeholders, lead a study to document the process and costs of burying infrastructure that many stakeholders noted is on the horizon, but yet not clear, because that work and the costs associated with that work in the future actually really impact the business plans and fiber deployment planning that's going on today. So that's a critical activity that needs to be done. So on the mobile wireless front, there's, as I mentioned, based on our analysis that showed that 50-foot or smaller wireless deployments would make a huge difference in increasing coverage, and in fact do so more efficiently than big towers for the easiest 50% of coverage gaps to close. We're recommending, and we outlined in a lot of detail, what a pilot grant program to deploy these towers would look like. We think that the state should pursue this on a pilot basis in order to collect certain pieces of data that should be used to adjust future rounds of that program. And we detail that all in the plan. We also note a number of data collection practices that the Public Service Department can implement to strengthen their ability to plan, especially in the mobile coverage environment. We document in the recommendations how the state can ensure affordability of both wireline and wireless service is prioritized for low-income Vermonters. We posit a definition of affordable, of what the state should consider affordable, as 2% of monthly income total for both types of service. We are recommending, based on our analysis, a subsidy of $67 a month if the state wants to ensure that both fixed and mobile service is affordable and achievable and attainable for low-income Vermonters. And we also note that a program to ensure fully subsidized devices and mobile subscriptions are available to unhoused Vermonters would go a long way in ensuring continuous access to service for that population. So in the Emergency Communications Department, right, we did a significant analysis in the document about the challenges and opportunities with consolidating the state's public safety answering points. So we understand that it's the Public Safety Communications Task Force charged to come to a decision on that front. We do hope that they use our analysis that informs their work. As stakeholders noted, some of the work that is yet to be done, that's needed to be done, simply needs sufficient funding, especially some elements of the SKIP plan. And then lastly, emergency communications and the resiliency of our communication systems really requires redundancy, resiliency, and the leverage that the state has in ensuring that in some of the deployments that are happening now can be built into the grant programs, right? To ensure that our systems are as strong as they can be as they get built out. Lastly, we provided some thoughts and advice, recommendations on how to modernize the statutes to better guide practices in the state for telecommunications. Obviously, there's a number of statutes that need to be reviewed and brought into alignment with each other on the speed definitions and deployment minimums. There's the Vermont Community Broadband Board sunset date, which I noted earlier should be extended if they want the VCBB to be fully in the driver's seat for that whole process. And then we put a lot of thought into how to align statutory goals, which again are almost 40 years old in many instances, with the current state of deployment strategies, the current emphasis on fiber deployment and local ownership of fiber deployment, public ownership of fiber deployment in Vermont. That is the end of the recommendation section. I'll just note these are the hearings remaining for the plan. They will all have a remote option. And with that, I will pass it back to Hunter and Harley.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for the overview. That is a brief overview of the 2024 telecom plan, 10-year telecom plan. The full plan can be downloaded on our website from the 2024 telecom plan page. There's an announcement on there with the direct link to it. And at this point, we will open the floor for any comments.
You get that plan and you go to your website.
Yep.
And then figure it out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The only suggestion I would have, you have a whole section to help with people with low income.
Yes.
I'd add disabled vets. I'm a veteran, but I'm not disabled, but I do know a number of veterans that help you. And it's just to bring in more information, more people onto using these sites. And I'm sure that they would be one like it. Two, it's another local group that can help with the other people.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. As we have found in a few of these, there is only a few of us and we have 35 minutes left.
Okay, workforce training.
Yes, sir.
We have a technical center in St. Albans City, Bellows Free Academy.
Yep.
And I'm sure if you made a presentation to them, there are a number of young people that could look to jobs with you all or with those people who establish things.
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to read the plan yet, there's a fairly large section devoted to what will be the workforce needs in the event that we get wireless deployment to all of the state, and how there's currently a shortfall for those positions. And there's some plans to partner with tech centers and to local colleges to get training programs in place to train people up to take those jobs.
And within that, since there are not enough young people to do it, I would work with the Immigration and Naturalization Service.
Yeah.
To because they also qualify people to come here, regardless of the issues on the Mexican border. But they will look for and help people who have qualifications to get easy access to Vermont and work.
That's a good point.
There again, I can help you with some people if you
Yeah.
want.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Let's see what else. No, I looked through here. I don't think I did download that plan. I did come across the federal plan. Broadband auctions task force release, mobility fund phase. Uncle Sam, but I didn't see anything that would help us.
Yeah, when I get back to my desk tomorrow, I will send you a direct link to the page where you'll be able to get the final draft of the 2024 10-year plan.
Fantastic, thank you.
It's about 360 plus pages, just so you know.
360 some odd. Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of the plan, then we have a lot of backup data, and then we have I think it wound up being 50 to 70 pages of public comments that we,
Oh, so I can
included
go
and
through and
responded
weed
to.
out
Yep.
a lot of. Get what
take what you want, leave the rest.
I'll save it on the computer, just in the printer.
It's very well organized, so the content page, it shows you where everything is.
Yeah. Alex, the presenter.
Alex, yes, he was the one giving the presentation.
Thank you for your comments and feedback, by the way.
You're welcome. I never knew what you did today. I've never seen before. Hooking up this person, the voice. You should work with VLCT and have a presentation for municipal people,
That's not a bad idea.
because we also communicate one with one another. In each of the regions, most of the town managers will get together for lunch once or every other month. But we have staffs that are trying to do multiple things and reaching out to people. And I can easily see our community development director using this, and she'd be at top of the high mountain with it.
That's not a bad, I don't know what resources the state has available for that kind of help. I know that I spent many years working for IT in the state, and I know that we made available resources for cybersecurity. I don't think we went through the VLCT, but we went through some other organization where we interfaced with a lot of towns to try to help them get some basic cybersecurity in place. But I don't know if it's necessarily in the telecom plan, but I'm all for getting something going for early level tech support. Yeah, this is amazing.
It is,
You guys have a great setup. Yeah, a great place for public meetings. Apparently, we're being streamed by,
right, behind you, and then there's a camera here that's picking me up.
yeah. Yeah, this is a really good setup. That's why we like coming back here.
No,
That's why we came
anytime.
back here for this one.
The other thing, legislatively, you can't do it, but I can. I know a couple of people in the legislature, both Republican and Democrat. And I'm gonna take what I heard tonight to my Republican friend and tell her, what it is, and maybe even send her a copy.
Great.
So I can lobby, and not being a lobbyist, but just as a citizen and knowing people who are in the legislature.
Oh, we appreciate that. We, prior to me coming in this role, the previous telecom director had requested funds from the legislature on 2 different occasions to get a granting program for tower siting to increase wireless access. But unfortunately, they were denied twice, figured only twice, and I didn't ask again. But now that we have the 10-year telecom plan back out, we could very well be on our way to asking for that grant money again to try to start that small mobile deployment grant program. And we're about to restart a drive test this summer, late summer, early fall. Where in 2022, we embedded a device that actually Aaron made and put together into a bunch of AOT vehicles, and it went around and measured the actual cell phone signal you get across the state, as opposed to the maps that the providers give us, which show the whole state is being covered. And actually, these guys drove around and they were able to figure out exactly, I don't know what the granularity was, probably down to 100 yards or so. But exactly where your phone started working and when it stopped working, when you were driving down the road. So we're looking to do that again, and we're looking to pair with either some private entities or some municipal entities to help get coverage on the back roads. So I grew up on the back roads in Fairfield on a dirt road, and I don't think anybody who lives out there ever drives down that, who doesn't live out there ever drives down that road. So we're trying to figure out some methods that we can use to try to get some of those roads covered to see where cell phone service is in the more rural areas. And I'll say, because we're on TV, I would like to try to partner with either school buses or First Student. The people, those guys drive most of the roads in the state of Vermont, one way or another, especially in rural areas like this. I know I spent an hour on the bus to get to school in the morning. And we took a route through 3 or 4 different back roads that no one would be on otherwise. So I think that would be a good method to try to get more coverage and more data for exactly where cell phone service starts and stops.
The other thing, Vermont Electric Co-op has.
Yep.
What they call co-op, where you can, sign up for for electric panels.
Yeah.
So I have then so my house is, if you will, neutral, although I have rented these spaces to get the electricity. It doesn't come directly to me. But I was thinking of a co-op form or just a partnership on those very rural roads. I don't know how much it costs to put in that, what we were talking about before, the small 50 yard.
It costs a chunk of money.
Pardon?
It costs a chunk of money.
Like, but what?
I think when we did this, they were talking probably $100,000 to $150,000 for everything, I think.
To put it on a pole, telephone pole?
Yeah, for the antennas to get all the wiring in place.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, it's expensive.
You know, I was willing to give away $10,000 or $15,000. No, wow.
I think that's one of the reasons that you don't see more deployment in rural areas is that the return on investment is just not quite there yet.
Right.
You know, the amount that it still costs to get one of these deployed is still pretty large in terms of how much you get back, considering that the number of subscribers in the area is not that high.
Right.
And that's where some of the things that we had talked about before, for instance, rent-free options, stuff like that, hopefully help entice the wireless providers.
Yeah, I know the town's willing to do that for its
Yeah.
property. But that doesn't save that much money.
Not a ton, but maybe the price has gone down since I talked to him last.
Just since you're from Fairfield, their town office sits fairly high. They should be able to capture some of this too.
Yeah,
And the Brannons, if you go even higher up there. now.
yeah, we just got one of the silos. That was my first job, was haying around the Brannons.
Was it?
It's a maple farm now mostly.
Yeah.
Routine, but yeah, spent a summer dodging hay bales and then stacking them in the trailer.
And then just out of curiosity, did you get anyone to join on Teams?
Bad.
Yeah, we went out, we advertised these through WCAX, right? So there's a banner on their website and then during their streaming service. And then we advertise at the Department of Libraries and we advertise on our website to try to get people to come out. We have not had the best of luck with turnout. I think the previous ones we advertised on Front Porch Forum. That still didn't really increase turnout, so. I don't know how to reach people at this point. I guess go at the top of the building in Montpelier and yell really loud. Neighbors.
We can't really use social media and we can't spend a whole bunch of money on advertising.
Right. There again, town has to send out in envelopes the tax bills.
Yeah.
And if you had an insert and distributed to all the town clerks, it wouldn't add to the cost of the mailing. Or
Right.
tax bills one page, yours be another page, would easily go under that half ounce or whatever that regulation is. That would be another way, if you tied it more to when we have to pay taxes.
Those are definitely notices people take notice of, pay attention to.
Right.
That's a good idea too. Yeah,
Give them a $10 credit.
there we go. Were you guys swamped for the eclipse?
Yes.
Yeah, you got.
But was really interesting, there was not one incident of any type of problems with needing the police or even emergency medical.
Good. That's great.
And we didn't flip cars, were very careful, didn't rip out our parking lot because it was muddy.
Yeah.
And the people around the towns were the higher on the elevations on French Hill and Fairfield Hill. Absolutely no problems. I stayed up on French Hill, on Westview Drive, Woodview. Really interesting. Met people from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
It's great.
And all of them, most of them were camera people, wanted to get shots with their cameras of the moon. But all in related, we had one person who worked for a pharmaceutical, and the guy from New York sold them materials for the pharmaceuticals. They had common friends.
Small world.
That was really interesting. And then all of us were older, except for one person who was a freshman at UConn, traveling with her father. And all of us were wearing glasses except her.
Oh,
She focused all the cameras because with glasses, they couldn't get it perfect to the moon.
Yeah.
She could.
Yeah, I was part of the planning process with the SEOC, State Emergency Operations Center, and we had expected a lot of people to come to St. Albans.
Yeah.
And I think at the end, I saw an article where they said there was about 166,000 people came up here for the eclipse, not St. Albans, but
The whole state.
the state. But you figure that the path of totality was only north of Montpelier. So 166,000 people in probably the top third of the state.
We should have had a census right then. Don't go, Sam. What was really interesting were the pictures of people leaving from St. Albans going south. Bumper to bumper red lights all the way.
From St. Albans down to Concord, New Hampshire. Talked to a couple people who made the drive afterwards, and they said that what would have normally been maybe a 3-hour drive turned into a 9-hour drive.
wow.
My stepdaughter had to go back to Massachusetts, so she saw I'm down in Middlesex, about 5 miles outside of Montpelier. She saw the totality and then took her glasses off. And we were like, you should leave now, because if you leave when the whole thing is over, you're gonna be behind traffic. And she left then and it still took her 5 hours. It's usually 3 hours. And I was supposed to go do some volunteer work in Barry. It's usually a 20-minute drive. I got in the car and headed out, and traffic was backed up 4 miles outside of Montpelier. I just turned around and I said, not tonight. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be able to make it, but yeah, just amazing the amount of traffic that came.
And I didn't see any articles in terms of the state, any type of increased crime, accidents. That most of the people were very courteous and law abiding.
I think it went as good or better than anyone could have hoped,
Yeah.
quite honestly. Yeah, everybody was personable and nice. There was no large emergencies that suddenly popped up, and everybody came, saw the totality, and then just sat in a lot of traffic to get home.
Right.
But I think they all knew that was gonna happen when they came up here for the day, so.
Right.
So I had an appointment in Burlington the next morning. And I went up there, and on the way back from Burlington to Montpelier, there was still an abnormal amount of traffic.
Really?
Normally you drive the interstate at 10:30 in the morning,
Oh, yeah.
you know, whatever that was, a Tuesday,
Yeah, nothing.
and there was nothing, and it wasn't bumper to bumper, but there was a car 20 feet in front of me and a car 20 feet behind me. Very interesting. It was worth it. The totality, I think, was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life.
I am on a farm and my roosters and chickens went into the barn thinking it was nighttime. And then they came out and did their morning routine.
Right.
It was really funny to watch.
That's funny.
Yeah, my niece has chickens too. And yeah, same thing.
They all went into roost
Yeah,
when it got dark, and then they came back out like 3.5 minutes later.
yeah, they were kind of confused. The ducks were confused too, but it was funny.
It's great.
I saw a bat for about 45 seconds and then it disappeared again. It was great. It was so wild.
It was amazing, yeah. When it finally happened and you're able to take the glasses off for that couple minutes, I think we had 1 minute and 40 seconds in Middlesex and look up, and it was just like a gateway to another world that opened up the sky. It was really great. Aaron is a photographer. He says you're not a professional, but if you see his work, you might disagree. You got some great pictures.
Oh, cool, Aaron.
Yeah, they're not bad. I mean, they're not professional, like you said, but it's hard to capture a big burning ball in the sky that suddenly goes dark.
You had one where you can see the branches of the tree and your yard sticking out, and it's just amazing.
It's pretty cool. So the nearest towers to here, there's two pole top type towers, a couple of monopole towers. And then as you get closer to the highway, there's several large towers over that way, two up on the hill.
Right, there's some up on the hill, probably by the old Air Force Base.
Exactly, yeah.
And then where are the monopoles?
Um,
We have a map of where the closest towers to you are that we're
Right,
trying to figure out.
Quarry Hill, I think it's Quarry Hill. First of all, there's the state's tower, it's got a tower up there for the police,
Right, they
and the
have
state
a
police.
LMR tower, yeah.
right? So they're one of them, and then, I think the other, what, more of a relay, it's not so much of a communication tower, not a cell tower.
Right. It's a public safety relay.
Okay,
The two that are closest to here, one's a utility pole top and the other is a silo at 78 feet, so. Neither of those are particularly high.
Fire, powerful, yeah.
you have you have two utility poles, don't you? One on Fairfield Hill on the road to the Air Force Base. There's one,
Okay.
and then there's one at the gas station, at the Valley Gas Station, or the
At the bottom of the hill.
Maple, pardon, at the bottom of the hill, Maple Fields, there's one.
Okay.
The only two that are visible from this valley, if you will.
Right, exactly. The two that I see on the map, they're so short, I doubt they actually reach this area. It's probably the ones that are up on the hill that have any reach. And obviously it's pretty slim with Verizon. I mean, my phone will show a bar every once in a while and it disappears.
Right.
Yeah. Down as low as you can get, any lower and we'd be in the water.
Maybe we could be a demonstration site.
I'm all for it, especially at a place like this where you have the park and you have the beach. And there's a big need and a lot of use that can come out of having service at a place like that.
Right.
Okay. I'm close to Wrightsville Reservoir, the state park in Middlesex, and
Mhm.
it's the same thing. There's no service down in the state park. So it's hard to go there for a day because you don't know if you're gonna get called, if you need, or
Right.
it's hard to go there and have the kids call to say, come pick me up from soccer practice because you don't get any service.
Yeah, the land that's adjacent to this building, where there's the old garage.
I remember when it was there.
Okay, so we're knocking those down, and right now we're doing a study of what to do with that land.
Yep.
And part of the town wants a boat launch, but we've had the Department of Forest and Park for
Yeah.
come out and said it's not feasible. So that's out. So, which I'm personally glad for, because it's not big enough to turn the big boats and cars, red trailers around. And then the other concept is two variations of a public park. And one of those has what they call a natural playground. It's not so much equipment, it's just space for kids to play.
Green space, yep.
Yeah. So we're looking at that right next, the next meeting is with the select board, because they just got the notice that the state commissioner said it's not gonna work. So they were the ones who are advocating for it. The planning commission was for the use of using the land for public activities, not dispose.
Yeah. So no one's ever gonna complain about extra green space.
Right.
Especially if it's on the water.
Well, Hunter, how would you feel if I
I
packed
think
up
we're
my
good.
stuff? I think that's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I've
Alex.
enjoyed tagging along remotely to the conversation, but you know. All right. See you next time. Thanks again for the feedback and yeah, appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll stick around another 5 minutes and then we'll close out 5 minutes early. We all have to go. I think, Aaron and I have to drive back to Montpelier and Carly bounce back to upstate New York.
Mhm.
Where?
Rouse's Point, just
Oh,
10 minutes outside
that's right.
Champlain.
You're a New Yorker.
Yes.
In her defense, her parents are in Vermont.
Yeah.
Our parents away?
In Vermont.
Oh,
Just about all my family is in central Vermont, so.
how did you get into New York State then?
That's, I went to high school there and then I went to college and, you know, you meet a boy and
Yep.
then you have a house
Right.
and the rest is history.
History.
Yeah. I have 80 acres in northern New York and
Wow.
it was affordable, so you won't find 80 acres in Vermont
No.
for what we got in New York.
Mm,
You're lucky if you get 10 for the same price.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Many years ago, at least 10, we drove Route 11 through New York all the way over to the military base.
Mhm.
And one, not only interesting and beautiful territory, but we were amazed at the poverty and the lower economic status. Because it used to be vibrant. My grandparents grew up in Elmira.
Mhm.
Half part of the family grew up in Elmira. So we used to go up there a lot. And I went to Ithaca College, so I was familiar with that territory.
Mhm.
And our HR director in Colchester was from a town just west of Champlain.
Moors.
Yeah, well, anyway, she describing her house and so forth, and she says, you know, there's a missile site behind my house. I said, you know what, since what was in that missile, it was decommissioned now, but she said, no. I said, well, there was an atomic bomb on that missile.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Hershey and her brother lived through it totally unaware of what the military had put out behind their house.
Oh, my
There's
goodness.
an ICBM silo back there.
Pardon? No, it was one of the early, I can't think of the name, but one of the early missiles,
Okay.
smaller ones that were replaced by the ICBM.
Okay.
And then most of those moved to the Midwest or far away.
Right. That's what I thought. Is they're out
Yeah.
in the
This was the
farmland.
early ones. Now, the legend has it, I'm not so sure it's true, but the bubble on top up there.
The radar base. Yeah.
Radar base. That was supposed to have some sort of sidewinding radar and hit the atmosphere and back down. And when it came back down, it was supposed to be in Russia, so they could follow things coming. But I've heard that was not true, but it was a myth going for many years up
It's a
there.
good story.
Pardon?
It's a good story.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one growing up. We used to ride I grew up on just over on the other side of Fairfield Hill on Rug Road. And
Oh, yeah.
we used to ride our bikes out there every once in a while. We'd ride our bikes down into St. Albans and then we'd push them up the hill after. There's no pedaling a BMX bike up that hill.
Did you ever know a person by the name of Jack Rug?
No, no.
He lived on French Hill, but his family, and he had an extended family, they were natives, but the road was named after that family.
That's you.
And Jack was an unbelievable character. He worked for Century Arms,
Okay, yeah.
but we were, and all of us on the Hill convinced that he worked for the CIA. Because he traveled all over the world and he would pop in, pop out. And it was just, and then the stories he would tell us about how he just escaped somebody and this and that. He had to be an agent of some sort. But they were a nice family. He had 2 daughters and a son. Son went into the military and was a helicopter pilot. He's now retired, I believe. And one of his daughters became a pediatrician. And the other daughter became an artist in New York State, near Rochester.
Okay.
All right.
Time to adjourn.
Yeah, I think we're close enough here. I will take my lumps if someone joins in the last 6 minutes. And I'll accept the scolding I would get for that by adjourning early, and I think we can adjourn. Thank you. Thank you to the interpreters. Thank you for attending.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Alex, even though you're gone, for presenting. And we'll be doing 2 more of these, one next Wednesday, which will be remote and in person in Randolph, right? And then one the following Thursday on the 17th, right? 16th, in Springfield, which will give people an opportunity to offer more feedback on a 10-year telecom. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.